It is now 7:19. Politicians who normally don't share the same views are coming together in favor of school choice. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Senator Ted Cruz were among hundreds at Minute Maid Park promoting school choice, which means kids don't have to be zoned to a certain school to attend it. Some parents held signs and wore shirts declaring, "My zip code will not define the quality of my education." A lot of districts were there giving information about their fine arts, STEM, and other programs.
And what we find is when a kid matches his or her own needs, talents, and interests to a school that specializes in the same, magic happens. They are engaged at school, they want to go to school, they love school, they make good grades.
HISD is accepting applications for its magnet schools through August. Well, from public to charter and private schools, the right to choose is a hot button issue for many families. Our front page panel is here to break it down with us this half hour, and we want to hear from you. You can share your thoughts on our Facebook page and Twitter right now. Joining us in our newsroom is Fox 26 legal analyst Chris Tritico, our public policy analyst Jackie Bally, and news analyst Mustafa Tamiz. All right, what should parents know leading into this National School Choice Week? What do you think it's important for them to know, Chris?
Well, look, you have to first examine the education. Think about what you want for your children, and are they getting that in the public school? If not, then look at the alternatives that you have. There are charter schools, and on charter schools, I caution parents all the time. There are some very, very good charter schools, and there are some charter schools that are run from a profit standpoint that are not really educating children. Take a long, hard look at the charter before you withdraw your child from the public school, because you may be putting them in a place that they're not getting near the quality education they're getting in the public school. And then you have a private school option that you can look at. With vouchers or school choice, if Texas ever gets to the point where you can actually take that money and put it into a private school setting, that's really, I don't know how much that's going to help people in the lower income parts of town, because if you get $5,000, that's not going to help you in a public school. So take a look at the charters before you move to them, Mustafa Tamiz, because you can be taking your child and putting them in a place where they're not getting any education at all.
Well, there's a lot of conversation about education reform, what should be done, what shouldn't be done. And sometimes I think charter schools are a good laboratory to experiment and figure out what's effective. But if you look at vast majority of kids around the country, 95% of those kids go to public school system. So we can't walk away from our focus on making education important in the public school system. And in terms of the choice, I think it's an innovative thing to try and test it. And HISD has done it with the magnet schools, and I think that's been a good program. But we have to be cautioned that it's easy to dump on the teachers and dump on the public school system when our efforts should be going there to improving it.
Magnet schools were actually created to end segregation, but as a program, I think it has been a very successful program. But talking about moving your child from a public school setting to a charter school setting may not necessarily be the best for that child.
And it's up to the parents to do the research to make sure that it's an appropriate setting, just like if you were thinking about going to a private school, to make sure it's an appropriate setting for your child. We have so many options when it comes to choice, from transfers to magnet, charter, and I think it's very important now that there are less dollars going into the classrooms and to the teachers. We now have to open up the dialogue, the discourse, and talk about different areas and options. So I think this is a very good week to actually bring this to the forefront.
And I want to talk about that coming back. We'll go to Sally, but I want to talk about Texas ranks either second, 49th or 50th in funding, and we'll talk about that when we come back. Sally's monitoring our social media accounts.
We asked people if they are happy with the school that their child is currently at. Olivia says, public and private schools disappoint me. My son, who has special needs, was not getting what he needed, so now we homeschool. And then Cherie says, all of the attention is focused on passing tests. Until we change the testing climate, really no parent has a choice.
Two very outstanding points. So first, there are, to my knowledge, there are no charter schools that cater to children with special needs. It is so expensive. You can't get enough funding to do that in a charter school setting, or in private schools don't generally do that. It is so expensive. You're probably, as a special needs child, going to end up staying in the public school setting. And the testing element is something we've been harping on for a very, very long time. George Bush, when he was president, increased the testing. Texas legislature last time decreased it finally and said we're not going to take as many tests. But the funding element is really primary, I think, to what is happening with education in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. And in an earlier segment, I made a comment that General Abbott made a comment about Texas teachers, and it wasn't him. I had the wrong Republican. Is Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst who made the comment that we pay our teachers enough, and that's absolutely not true. I mean, we spend, if you look at higher education, and if you look at private school industry, you're paying almost $20,000 a year in most private schools K through 12. But we spend less than $7,000 per kid in Texas, and that's the lowest in the country. One of the lowest.
If you want the brightest and the best, you have to pay, don't you?
There's no doubt that education should be and will be one of the top key policy areas, and General Abbott has made that clear. He's been going around talking to teachers and administrators, and he's made it clear that education will be one of his top policies. Education takes up a quarter of our budget. So the problem is we're not getting the dollars that we need to keep up with the population that we have. And that's why school choice, again, is another great example of, you're not looking at dollars, but you're looking at different ways you can actually go back to the classroom, connect with the teachers, and connect with the children.
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off. We got to leave it right there, Sally. We could go on for the rest of the show about this.
It's definitely one that families are interested in, and hopefully this jump-started the conversation for some folks at home. So thanks, guys. We'll see you in our next half hour. Time now is 7:26.